Nobody's using handles.
Anybody ever fought with piston pin clips in the past?
Yes.
Not any.
48 for about 4 hours.
Not anymore, man. And if you, by the way, they make these generic aftermarket tools for piston pin clip installation.
Yeah.
Just buy one.
Really? I've never seen.
Oh,
Skidoo had their own version I've used once. I never knew there was an aftermarket. This tool is a necessity for doing the liners without splitting the case halves.
get the little pin in the right spot. That's always my trick. Sean?
Yes.
Okay.
Did I get it?
Well, I just know that, or I've heard that if you get that backwards, the motor won't rotate all the way all around for some reason.
Oh, really?
We do this crazy thing when we do this sometimes at some of the events, so we do a speed build. Watch this.
Oh, that's what a there? Jesus.
Trust
Have you ever
me.
tried doing without it?
That's
No, I'm just saying the tool.
well, you get a little tiny bit of an issue getting the little edge of the clip lined up because it doesn't really guide.
When you're doing this inside the crank halves together, you go through that hole where you build that thing, so you can load it and knock them home. You don't have to worry about dropping them.
So
what tool do they
downside
use
in.
to take it out?
imagine trying to do that
It's
through this hole.
basically
This is what this is set up for, and it's piloted, so this sends it home. That's why. So we didn't buy this tool until we had the opportunity.
Kyle, getting the piston clip off in the case half. He just asked, how do we get the clip off when it's in the case half? Like
Very
that?
carefully. A pick and needle nose pliers.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But you know what? If
You'll
you
throw a
drop it
guy
in the bottom
picking-
end, you're taking it apart.
Right.
So you just fish it out afterwards.
Typically, the way we do it a lot of times is you'll stick a tiny bit of an awl or something, a very
Well, I was
small
worried-
pick,
Right.
and then you'll stick another piece of round like an 8mm socket or something like that. So even if you do lose it, it just hooks on it. You just pull it right out. But like he just said, Kyle, could you show that through the hole? Because I think some of the guys were talking. So the nice thing about this tool is it's piloted, and now when you go to push that clip into the hole, you just push it in, whack it, and it loads the clip into the piston.
So this piece lines up with the piston and sets itself home, and then when you push the core through, it sends it all the way in.
Firmly engages the
Correct.
housing.
Yeah.
You just have to have the piston at the right height, and it, just
First time we did one of these, I was all concerned about, oh, we can't drop the clip in there, we got to catch the clip, but I realized once the clip's out, I can stick my arm in and actually grab it because there's so much room inside the engine.
Well, that's true. Once this is out, you probably could
Exactly.
fetch it out of there.
So I made it work, but I was able to get it with a pair of long, like electronics needle nosers and a pick. So
And there's only one clip?
one clip on each side.
Oh, okay.
just
Oh, all
But
right.
we pulled that one off to show everybody
Oh,
how
alright.
the piston cylinder looked.
Anybody
The
seen
main
Honda's new
Chase?
Fill Your Garage commercial?
No.
Where they claim that they're the first company that did fuel-injected motorcycles?
Yeah.
Anybody know what the first company who really did a production fuel-injected
Who's
motorcycle was? Honda just did the thing with the first fuel-injected motorcycle. They claimed CX500 turbo. Does anybody know who the first production company that really did a fuel-injected motorcycle?
Kawasaki had Z1, right?
Yep.
Right. Z1 fuel-injected in 1980.
The big weight with the big gate valve.
Exactly.
airflow
The big
sensor.
airflow sensor. You're
I had a
like,
family member who had one of those, and when those things got old and had massive vacuum leaks, trying to make them run right, holy smokes.
what year was that CX500?
83?
82 in Japan, 83 in the U.S.
CX650 turbo.
Well, they had the CX500 first,
Right.
and then they had the 650 was the 83.
I used to take two of those turbos and put them on 13B Mazda rotaries with a Fisher injection pump off a BMW 2002. About 350 horsepower in a midget or a Sprite.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah.
Pot's been.
Oh,
I
yeah.
guess we're going to keep going so
Hey,
we don't
whatever's
run out
in
of
the
time
junkyard.
today. So we got our crank assembly built, and we have a nice Teflon guide here. It would fit better if I had taken the keyway out.
Lubrication.
Oh, that's sick.
So what this does now is it establishes proper position of everything so we can get the case half together and not have the upper case half clip the cylinder liners or anything else.
Now, your liners have to be indexed too, don't they?
They do. If you look, there are notches here and there are steel pins that are set. We can
Do
rotate
it as you go in.
when we're done and close. The biggest reason these things have to be indexed is because the cylinders are fish mouthed. The crank flyweights would clip them if we had them in the wrong position.
And also, there's actually a locating pin in the very top step, and it can only go when it presses the liner. It goes in one way. So that we
This
make
is not
sure
gonna
that
be
it can
fun.
only do one thing. But if you look at that fixture that you just removed the crank from, you'll see the two vertical pieces on
Shift
either
force
side.
in as I come in.
If these are not indexed properly, actually, I'm sorry, they can be 180 degrees around,
I got you.
but they can't be completely wrong. Well,
You guys didn't see it, but I installed, there's actually a nylon tube that goes on and bolts down and holds the transmission bearing because it's a oscillating bearing in position. Because we'd never get it lined up right if we didn't. Okay. Mind your way with my finger there. Nope, come up with, okay. Now we're cheating. I didn't pull the shift drum out, which is making this considerably more difficult to get in. But there's a lot of other stuff I want to show you guys besides taking a shift mechanism apart. Okay. You got both pins, Sean? Yep. Okay. Now, one thing we didn't really cover is how a transmission in a motorcycle works. I'm sure some people know, but for the benefit of everybody, we'll go over it really quickly. When you're shifting a motorcycle transmission, what you're doing is engaging gears that either freewheel on a shaft or are splined to a shaft. And the way we engage them is if everybody looks on the side of these gears, you're going to see there's square teeth. Call them shift dogs. There's going to be corresponding female slots on the opposite side. So when we shift gears, what we're actually doing, and this is a perfect one to see. So see how these two gears are spinning independent of each other? I can hold and stop this gear. Once I shift this, I will get this gear to lock into this ratio. And now it's going to spin the transmission at this gear ratio. So as we're shifting it, we're engaging series of gears and locking freewheeling gears, which this is a freewheeling gear, into a fixed, or excuse me, this is a fixed gear into a freewheeling gear to select specific gear ratios. That's why on a motorcycle transmission, you can't just go from sixth to first without the gears meshing and spinning like you can in a car, because you don't have a neutral gate to go into. It's all sequentially up and sequentially down. So you have to actually get all, so when you're stuck at a stoplight in fifth gear and you're trying to get into first, see how these two won't go together? You have to let the clutch out and get it to spin, and then that's why it will go into gear.
I know some of you just laughed, but that does happen. It really does.
My transmission's broken. I can't get it into
gear
gear
when
to
I come to a
stop.
stoplight.
People will pull up to a stop in fourth gear, pull the clutch in, and then try to get it into first.
I never had to use the fifth gear on street on a 1000cc bike.
Imagine.
I'm always in first or second gear.
Okay, so we have our filtration screen, which just goes in loose. We have our scavenge pump. There are dots to orient which way the pump goes in. If we put it together the wrong way, it'll either bind up and not go together, or the shaft will fall apart on us. The first time we did one of these at school, we put together the other side wrong, and the shaft just flopped in and out of the engine. So next we're going to need our nylon guide so that we don't damage the main bearing. And some jackass didn't pull the keyway off and they took it apart, and the keyway grabbed it. Okay.
We won't hold that against him.
No, So this is the only seal between the case halves besides gasket sealer. There's a little jet here that we'd have to be careful if we don't lose when we're washing this thing in the solvent tank.
Oh,
All right, and now Sean's got the ball. He's gonna run with it.
oh, that jet is the change in oil pressure, isn't it?
Something to do with transmission oil feed. Got a direct line with a restrictor jet on the transmission.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah. That's cool.
You may have to pick the front.
Cool until you lose it.
Oh, is it the steel pin? Hang on.
That pin gets in the way.
Yep, it's hanging.
You're trying to. This is always a very difficult thing.
Watch your
because you're
fingers.
trying to get multiple shafts and guides and everything to go all at the same time. And it's very, as you can tell, it's very, very closely machined.
Now, you want to trap the crank and get the liners down a little bit, because if this thing cranks a little bit and the piston moves, it can spit the pistons out of the liners, and we'll have to take the whole thing back apart. So we're just,
You take the front one, I'll pull this one down. Because it's going to push out.
yeah, I'm holding the crank so it won't turn.
Okay.
Just to keep from happening. So we were asked about reference marks. Notch, notch, steel pin, steel pin.
Nice.
So we're going to leave them here until Sean gets all the crankcase half bolts set and tightened up.
Between the cases, what kind of gasket is it? Like a RCB?
Yep. The black 3-bond sealant, which we refer to as Ducati bond. It was a Yamaha, we call it Yamaha bond.
And because of the shape of the line, it's just they're not indexed and they're not put in there where they belong. It's just seconds away from coming apart as soon as
Yep.
you start it, right?
No, because you'll never be able to turn the motor over and
you
time it.
wouldn't, would you? Yeah,
So you'll just be angry at yourself for having to take everything back apart. And punishment for that will be the black sealer. All of your hands.
Oh yeah.
That will be there for weeks.
And donuts for the shop.
Yeah.
It's unwritten rule. You have to
Has
buy
anybody
donuts.
here ever tarred a foundation?
Oh, yeah.
That's what your hands look like after you work on an engine with Ducati bond.
Well, if a guy's going to ignore index marks, he deserves it anyway.
Exactly.
And again, typically when we go, this is just a training motor, but when we go back together, it'd be a torque. There's a torque spec in the book, and we torque it as we go.
And a pattern too. Yeah.
When I did the motor that we did here, it took me probably 25 to 30 hours just to do the engine.
Nice.
But I didn't have to take it back apart a second time for anything, and I just took my time and made sure everything
Done right.
was exactly right, being the first one.
Done right.
So, click, 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 click.
How's this motor compared to the older ones?
I love the click type T-wrench. I could have given you one.
Twice as long for me.
Awesome.
But is that just because of experience, or is
Yeah,
it
yeah.
kind of to?
You can dump the old motor into a pile, and I can tell you where every bolt goes.
Yeah.
This motor, I can tell you every bolt goes about 4 hours later, just because we haven't. And it's a testament to the product. We haven't done one yet, really. We bought the bike that vibrated.
Yeah.
We wanted that bike. We bid on it and bought it. So we knew when
nice.
the buy sheet came that there was a bike that had engine problems. We wanted it because we wanted to tear it down.
Yes.
Yes. So, I mean, technically, in that regard, if we hadn't have purchased that motorcycle, we wouldn't have gone into a Panigale bottom end yet.
Right.
So, as the production numbers they built these things and how many they made, we've had virtually zero major engine problems.
Well, that guy that's got the 60,000. I mean, that's a pretty fabulous testimonial.
You know, he's